Reboots and prequels are all the rage these days, but there's no way anyone's going to reboot the insanely popular video game series Batman Arkham, so they're giving it a prequel. Why a prequel?
Why not?
You were ready for me. So I'm here with Roger Craig Smith.
Hello.
You are the new Batman.
Oh, yes. Why do you say it like that?
Well, it's
no pressure.
No pressure. It is pressure. I'm afraid it is.
It is. I know, and I'm all too aware of that. Everybody keeps saying that. I guess this is going to be big. People will actually.
I think people have played this
hear
game
about this?
before.
Okay.
People are pretty picky about their Batman voices.
I'm one of them,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching the animated series, I grew up reading the comics, and I've seen all the different iterations. And, you know, we've had everyone from Cesar Romero and you know, Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, Heath Ledger, John DiMaggio even. So the main thing was just to focus on doing the role, not to try to beat anybody's performance.
Well, that whole list, everyone kind of made it their own, right? So
Absolutely.
How are you making the character your own?
The benefit that I have is obviously we want to point to and make this be in Congress with the Arkham universe, and with, you know, we want people to see that Arkham Origins is going to point to Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
It's a prequel.
It's a prequel to those. So we've got a great framework to be able to work inside of. The thing that I get to do is kind of find out where Joker began. We see where he's going to end up, and it's kind of like being able to find that space.
How early is this Joker? Is this like pre-Harley? I mean, like, at what point are we meeting the Joker?
We'll find out as we get more into the game, and that's what everybody wants to know. And the cool thing is it's an origin story, but that's one thing that you don't. Me as a Batman fan, I never wanted to know too much about the Joker. I don't want to know where he came from and everything else. That's one thing that makes him so cool. He's a complete enigma.
So how do you play young Batman?
Well, thankfully, this is an interesting question because a lot of people are asking how we came up with a voice, that kind of thing, and how we approach the character. And it's a collaborative effort. We work with a director, we work with a production team, and everybody tries to figure out how do we want this version of Batman to sound. That being said, I didn't come in with any sort of weird, you know, I think high-pitched is the way to go with him, or, you know, no new choices.
His voice hasn't dropped
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. I'll think of Batman. No, it's not gonna fit.
Why a prequel? Well, I think one of the reasons we got really excited about a prequel game is that Batman is very fully formed in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. He's a very complete character. He knows exactly what he is, and all the other characters know him. You know, he's a friend to the police. He's a friend to Commissioner Gordon. People will talk to him as Batman. And one of the things that's really fun about the early career setting with Batman is by taking him back to where he started, he's kind of this scary urban myth, you know? People don't necessarily believe if there's a Batman. And those characters that have met him usually had a very bad experience with him.
I like that. This is the first time the game series is going to go more detective-oriented, right? So does that mean there's more story, too?
Absolutely. I mean, you always want to be iterating on the story, and there's such a vast well to draw from in the Batman mythos. And yeah, like we saw in the E3 demo, that new detective mode, which was what everybody loved in the first two games. The detective mode is fantastic. You want to walk around the world if it wasn't so beautiful just looking through detective mode. But being able to see how they've extrapolated and how they've built on that. As a gamer, for me, that's one of the most exciting things about the game.
This is intense detective mode.
Yes.
Did you have to read a lot of like lines like I think this and maybe this?
Yes, and there was a ton of it, and hopefully it doesn't get too grating. But that was, you know, hey, some people have real problems in life. You know. Yeah.
This is a pretty good one.
It's a good problem to have. Like, I've got to read all these lines as this iconic character. Oh, throw me on that briar patch. Oh well.
So things like the scanner thing you refer to, that's what we call the crime in progress system. So the player will be gliding around the city, grappling around, and he'll intercept the 911 call. He'll hear some crime in progress right then and there. And if he doesn't respond to it, eventually it'll be done and he'll lose the opportunity for it. But if he does respond to it, he'll find an event going down. It could be a bank robbery, it could be some cops which have been ambushed, for example, and they're pinned behind a police car and all these guys are shooting at it. And Batman can come in and face, usually the enemies in these groups will be composed of the high watermark of difficulty. So it'll be a big opportunity to take down a tough group of enemies and earn a whole bunch of XP and then kind of, I guess, reinforce the role of who he is. Because at the start of our story, he's not a friend with the cops. He's a wanted man.
We have a big DC Villains month coming up. They have the comics, they have a documentary.
Yes.
This is a whole Arkham-based game, you know, in the asylum. So you can't pick Joker because you're playing him. But who's your favorite Batman villain?
You know, I almost have to go to Bane, too, just because he did what the impossible was. He broke the bat. And, like, Bane from the comics, not necessarily other iterations of Bane.
Okay, I hear you.
But yeah, that'd be a really interesting question of like who would I choose in the Batman world other than Joker? It's so hard because he's the perfect villain.
Joker, for
Joker?
sure. Yeah, Joker.
Yeah?
And honestly, with what Troy's doing with this character, it's just incredible, and I cannot wait. I'm waiting for the game to come out because then I get to play it and see it and hear it. But just in the little snippets that I got to work with him, and from what I've heard, it's just incredible. So Joker.
A lot of villains are heavily featured in the first two games. the first two Arkham games. But you have so many villains here because it takes place at Arkham Asylum. What's your favorite villain that it's making his or her debut here?
My favourite villain that's making his debut? Well, at a personal level, it's probably Anarchy. He's a character I've always really loved. He's a character that started out in the comics, created by Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogle, and he's a character that's anti-corporate and anti-government, and really, wants to stick it to the man. And I think that, of all the characters in Batman's Rogues Gallery, his time has come in the real world, right?
Yeah.
So our visual design was actually really influenced by things like the Black Bloc protesters that you see, where they put on these hoodies and they put on these masks, and they go out there and they're turning over police cars and they're throwing petrol bombs and spray tagging things. So that's really who Anarchy is, and so we get to take something that's going on in the real world and bring that into Gotham now. It felt very timely, and it seems like he's not alone in his sentiments that he had back when he was created in the 80s. People are thinking this way right now.
My last question for you is that this game takes place at Christmas, Christmas Eve, and I read that the music was influenced by Die Hard. What made you decide to pick such like an iconic holiday? Because they have that in like Iron Man 3 even took place during the Christmas season.
Right. Well, why Christmas?
Yeah,
for the
why
game?
Christmas?
Well, we really wanted the game to look different just at a glance. So obviously there's been Arkham Asylum and there's been Arkham City, and one of the things we were looking at was what time of the year could we use to set things up so that the streets would be different, so that the soundscape would be different, so the costumes for the characters would be different. So we really want to push the winter element. So characters are out there in the street, they're much more heavily clad. Batman's costume itself is winterized. You've seen characters like, you've seen the Joker so far revealed. He's wearing a big heavy winter jacket. Excuse me. Sorry.
No worries.
And you're also, I think you'll notice that there's an element of irony that comes with something like Christmas in Gotham, because you've got Christmas. What do you think of? You think of warm things. You think of family and gifts and happy times.
Love and joy.
Right, carols and stuff like that. And so that's kind of nice, right? That's kind of warm. And then you go to Gotham and it's like, man, this is the happiest night of the year and the worst place in the world. So you have this black and white irony, but it doesn't ruin the drama. It doesn't make fun of Batman, but it does add an element of irony to the whole thing.
I like
and
that.
So we get to set dress locations rather than, for example, we have a place called the Royal Hotel, which you'll have seen if you've played our demo here. And it's been overrun by these gangsters that have taken the whole place up. But it's all set up for a giant Christmas party.
Oh, wow.
So you have this, well, that looks like that would have been fun, but then these guys have come along and ruined the whole thing. So if it was just Tuesday, you wouldn't be able to have something like that.
So the Batman Arkham games are so popular that people just can't get enough. And luckily they have someone like you who's developing companion games, right?
Fantastic. I like that. Yeah, I mean, this is a great opportunity for us to create a product that kind of goes hand in hand with something of the grandeur of the Batman console version. They have this awesome story, crazy cinematics, and just the epic feel of the Batman game that Montreal's been able to put together, and we've been able to take kind of a snippet of that and make something new.
So what you're building now is called, Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate.
That's right.
After the famous prison, fictional prison.
That's right. Yeah. So we kind of carved our own little story out of this universe, and we take place after the events of the console version.
Ooh.
And our game almost completely takes place on Blackgate after the events. So you kind of see what happens to all the characters after.
What's your Blackgate like?
Well, it's very prison-y.
Oh, okay, I like that. It's a safe choice.
No, it's cool. That was part of the challenge, right? Is like, what do you do with a prison? Everybody thinks it's just kind of like concrete walls and iron bars. But Blackgate is more than that.
Especially when you're coming from Arkham.
I know, right?
It's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, I mean, Arkham is much more gothic, and Blackgate is much more built by normal people, So it's kind of it's a prison guy's prison. But what we try to do is really mix it up. We have a lot of different locations within the prison, so it's not just kind of cells and things like that. There's a lot of different places you can go.
So what's the graphics package like? How is it developing it for like a smaller screen?
It's kind of tough. The majority of the art for our game is original. We build everything from scratch. Like, we took over a lot of the animations from the console version, so it's all mocapped. We have all this great voice work that we shared with the console version. So the production values are fantastic. And one of the things we do really well at Armature Studio is our environments. And so we were able to put a lot of our original effort into making the worlds look very different, but still feel like they belong in the Arkham universe.
So you've been working with all these villains. Who's your favorite?
Oh God, I can't say without spoiling stuff. I'll say whatever ones that have been uncovered already.
I know. Oh, so you have like some surprise villains?
Oh yeah, we have several villains that don't appear in the console version. So yeah, there's a lot of original stuff.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So if you want to know who the contenders are for his favorite villain, you have to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Well-
We'll talk later.
Do you have to have played Batman Arkham Origins to play Blackgate?
No, and it was specifically designed that way. I mean, if
Okay.
you do play both, you'll get a lot more out of it because many things kind of go back and forth.
And reference it, right?
Yeah, and reference
okay.
it. But if you just play the console or just play the handheld version, you'll get a great experience. But I don't recommend it because you should buy both.
Do they come out at the same time?
They absolutely do.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So as long as you're in the store,
Why not pick up?
right? Yeah.